Welcome to Running It Back, the Lessons Learned from Sports podcast. I'm Mike Palmer, joined as always by Tarlin Ray. A lot going on. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you, Tarlin.
I'm
Tarlin?
just gonna let that sit. It's January 8th. We talked about this at the top
Yeah,
before we even hit record.
right.
I'm done telling people Happy New Year. Let's go.
Yeah,
Sorry,
you and Larry David, parallel discovery. You have not seen that Curb Your Enthusiasm.
I have not. I've not
episode.
seen Curb in a while, but
Yeah.
yesterday at work on several Zoom calls, I told people Happy New Year, but I'm saying I'm struggling to say, can we not say this anymore next week? Because it's time. Unless
Yeah,
we
well,
are struggling to write 22 instead of 21. Let's go.
right. But it's also, have you seen the person before? And our listeners, they've been clamoring for this. They've been saying, Mike, it's 2022. Where is my running it back? To those people, I wanted to say Happy New Year.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Welcome. Lots to talk about. I'm working on my country tune, One More COVID Winter with You. Looks like it's one more COVID winter with you here, Tarlin. That's how we got started, was talking about sports during the first wave of COVID. Now we're in the Omicron spike, which is a challenge we're all facing. We're going to talk about football. We're going to talk about someone who was involved in some football controversy as it relates to COVID, but now nobody even remembers that because as a supernova and potentially a fashion nova, Antonio Brown is back in the news. Before we get to any of that, Tarlin, I already wished you a belated Happy New Year. How you doing today?
Oh, thank you. I've been waiting. This is the longest lead in
I nailed the landing though.
ever for the how you're doing.
Yeah.
First of all, really distracted by what Palmer's wearing right now because he's wearing a Mets jersey.
I think it's a quarter zip.
It's a quarter zip.
Yeah.
And he's once again celebrating his next losing team in 2022.
I almost was going to do this show in my bathrobe because I was thinking, it's Saturday morning.
I do it in my pajamas every day.
Yeah, exactly. I thought it was fine. And then I was also thinking, because if I'm the AB of this podcast, I'm going to wear my bathrobe. You're lucky that I'm wearing my bathrobe.
No, he was not wearing a bathrobe. He was just mad because the Fashion Nova. And by the way, that's the hottest stuff coming out. The Fashion Nova.
Mm.
No one's got a deal like he does for Fashion Nova. It wasn't ready for him. So he was wearing something. He was wearing something else. Well, good to see you. Living in LA, you think you can avoid the snow. Had a interesting experience over the break where instead of being hunkered down in a torrential downpour in LA, we decided to drive to the snow.
Mm.
Great to see the snow with the family, go ski with two other families, and ended up being a 48-hour adventure.
Yeah.
Where you decide to leave LA on a Sunday night at 7 p.m., hoping to get close enough to South Lake Tahoe. So when the roads open, you can get there.
Right.
You end up at 2 a.m. at one of the finest Courtyard Marriotts. Shout out to Courtyard Marriott in Sacramento.
Yeah.
Got us doing a lot of Googling about why Sacramento is the capital of California.
Right.
It is an interesting town.
Quick follow-up question. The Courtyard Marriott there, is it a continental breakfast or do they have a waffle maker?
There was, you know what? There was neither. So
What?
it was just a mini sort of spot to get breakfast in the morning where there was sort of a Starbucks feel without being a Starbucks.
Yeah.
I never understand that branding where you're like, I feel like that's a Starbucks and the cup looks like the Starbucks, but it's not.
No. Yeah.
But you paid for everything. So I had nothing was comped. So we were in the car the next morning at 6 a.m. because the roads open at 10:30 p.m.
Yeah.
There's nothing there for you. And then to spend 11 hours going 80 miles, part of which you're putting chains on, and the other part of which taking chains off and slash and just being under a car or cars are going past you. It's all fun. So
yeah, I just real quick there for a little callback to our dedicated listeners, just to be clear, you were not cycling from the Courtyard Marriott with no breakfast. This was a similar scenario though, where a less well-apportioned hookup in the morning and you're still getting out in extreme conditions.
Whole family in my car this time.
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
They're so wedged in with so much stuff in the car, they couldn't move. And 11 hours of joy. The one thing I'll leave with you, and maybe we're just bad parents. We don't allow our kids to watch anything in the car.
Mhm.
So we're listening to How I Built It by Guy Raz. Great.
All right. Yeah.
Listen to a little Malcolm Gladwell, listen to some music. We force conversation. We'll play the alphabet game.
Yeah.
And we finally broke down because my 12-year-old is screaming, look at, because we were two other families. They're all watching something in the car. Why? And her, like, why can't I? Her argument was, why can't I just try it once? So
yeah,
we used to live in New England. We used to drive hours. So the number of hours we've been in the car for the first time ever, they got a 25-minute show.
Wow. Oh my God. That must have felt amazing too.
So
I mean,
I'm giving you a lot. I finished 2021 working on my vacation through snow,
through
sleet. It was almost like my trains, planes, all bills, but I really just put the Courtyard Marriott and all of Sacramento in that. Love to Sacktown.
Yeah.
And then it was a breakdown moment for me as a parent because the screen was in front of the kid's face because we couldn't deal anymore.
25 minutes, it's what
25 minutes, 11 hours.
That's one episode. That's one episode of Paw Patrol. As a parent of the 3-year-old, I understand how that could be. And you got a little skiing in.
It was great. It was great. Great skiing when you finally got on the mountain. So this is his first time on skis post Achilles. Not worried about my Achilles, but as an old man, got something going on with my gimpy left knee all of a sudden.
Okay.
But I survived.
Yeah.
Got to carve it up a little bit, and now we're back.
Nice. And I think we may need to start including an injury report in our episodes just to begin.
My trainer says the same thing.
My toe is healing up fine. For those of you who are concerned, I'm out there. I'm approaching the spry period of my athleticism with some style.
Is the spry period meaning you're calling out people that say that look spry versus you being spry?
No, I think you could start calling me spry. I'm getting old enough that you could probably start calling me spry. I guess in his NFL career, you may argue that Antonio Brown is entering the latter period of it, where you may characterize him as spry. That's probably one of the last adjectives that comes to mind when describing Antonio Brown. He has a bit of a mercurial personality. He's a little all over the place. He's potentially has some mental health challenges, which has been a theme we've talked about in a lot of different dimensions on the show. But all of this, he's a challenging teammate to keep as part of your tribe, but he's also an extremely talented receiver. I was looking it up now. I'm confirming this as we speak, but I know he was also a participant in Dancing with the Stars. I believe he was a winner. Is that correct, Tarlin?
I did not do that deep research.
Okay. We'll confirm that. I'll be on with the research team here. But
I know Emmitt Smith won it.
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe he just participated. They were eliminated during the semifinals. In season 22 of Dancing with the Stars, he was paired with professional dancer Sharna Burgess, and they were eliminated during the semifinals of the show. Later on, AB did say Sharma doesn't know how to dance. I'm kidding. These are the jokes. But he's been in and out of the public sphere. Mike Tomlin is an angle that we're going to be talking about. How did he manage him versus how he's been managed since? Tom Brady is a fan of Antonio Brown. He left the Steelers, had a brief stint with the Raiders. Tom and he got back together a little bit in New England, and now here he is back in Tampa Bay playing in New York against the New York Jets. I will say, fortunately, not my New York Jets, but I'm aware that the Jets are a New York football team. Things go awry. Things go off script just after halftime. AB, suddenly, there's a kerfuffle. There's a to-do on the sidelines. Can you bring our listeners along for the ride from here, Tarlin? What happened?
So we're going to bring you into our deep prep for this show, as Palmer and I went back and forth trying to talk about topics and talking about AB, and I just kept saying I'm struggling to cover AB because it's not like he said, he said, she said,
Mhm.
we were not mic'd up. So 3 years from now, there may be any NFL films with the mic
Yeah.
on.
Pat McAfee might have him on his show. You never know what might happen.
I'm sure. But supposedly, the coach asked him to go in. He refused to go into the game. Bruce Arians, the coach who was out the week before, he had COVID when AB returned for the first time since week 6 when he was injured his ankle, went off for 10 catches and said, "You're done," and made a slashed his throat. AB, if anyone has watched the Full Send podcast, it's the first interview that AB has given since the incident on the sidelines. I'm 53 minutes in getting all of AB and these 3 good guys I've never seen before. Said, "I'm an alpha. And when you say I'm done, I'm not going to be I'm fighting with my boys. And everyone knows that I was questionable and I didn't practice Thursday, Friday. Everyone knew about my ankle. I'm done." So he took off the helmet, threw off the pads, and then walked out.
Took off his undershirt.
Said he was, because he felt too sexy for the stadium.
Yeah.
That's a quote.
Mm-hmm.
Either he was flipping the deuces to the fans or the finger to his own team. And he left the team. He then caught an Uber. Danny Chalet is now one of more well-known drivers that picked him up outside of MetLife.
And actually, just real quick, even before then, in the end zone, he's pumping up.
He's pumping up the MetLife crowd. He felt a lot of love.
Beleaguered MetLife crowd who was there for what was it kind of a surprisingly exciting game.
And a botched fourth and 2 where Zach Wilson was supposed to give the ball to Berrios, who was balling, but he read the wrong way and he went for quarterback sneak. So then it gave Tom Brady a chance to go for 93 yards. And
there's some epic memeable images of AB jumping up in the end zone while the game is still being played. They're still playing.
That's why they play the game. The game. So he leaves. I'm just laying this out because as I said, I struggle to talk about this topic. In leaving, Arians in the press conference said AB was released. In leaving, AB lost up to close to $1 million in bonuses. He needed 8 more catches for $333,333 bonus, 55 receiving yards, another 1 TD for the same bonuses to get to $1 million. So he left money on the table.
Mm-hmm.
So AB officially was released and is now a 33-year-old that is 24th on the career receiving list with 12,291 yards, 21st on the reception list at 928, 42nd on TD with 88. One of the all-time receivers is out looking for another job where he spent years at Pittsburgh. He spent less than no time and never took a snap with Oakland. 1 game with the Pats, a half season with Tampa, and what is now almost a full season with second season with Tampa.
Yeah.
This is the guy we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So I struggle because we always like to pick topics where we can oftentimes look at what's going on now and run it back to times in the past. We often look at athletes from the past. To me, I could have spent a lot of deep diving looking at Randy Moss, by far my favorite receiver of all time, playing for Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah.
He's had his own issues, bumping a traffic cop, Minnesota, mooning fans.
Yeah, he was creative, but made some interesting choices with his touchdown celebrations.
Sure. Terrell Owens, me, a lot of controversy. Less in San Francisco, more with the Cowboys, and he bounced around, even getting to the Eagles, playing on. It's so interesting, playing on a bum ankle in the Super Bowl to dominate. You can do Chad Ocho Cinco. You have these alpha number receivers, and I wouldn't put Ocho Cinco in the same camp as I put AB. AB is one of the more dominant wide receivers you ever see. AB in the Terrell Owens and Randy Moss camp. I want to focus on what they do on the field, and everything else beyond that is just a lot of high drama. And that drama is leading to, yes, AB just dropped his most recent rap song, From the Pit to the Palace.
Yeah.
Take a listen. It's not bad.
Right.
Cause the prayers ready for you to be back. I'm from the pit, not the palace. I'm kind of stylish. Lifestyle lavish. Jump in the coupe with no mileage. Run it. Style it. I'm from the pit, not the palace. I gotta run it. Style it. Hit on the gas, make it growl it. Jump in the coupe with no
One quick
mileage.
note for you that I think you may find interesting as we continue to do some next level reporting here, running it back. Per Fox Sports, Arians aggravated his Achilles injury last week. The tendon is partially ruptured. If it fully ruptures, he will need surgery.
Are you talking about the coach?
This is Arians. The coach, while he's trying to coach AB, is limping around, coming off of his COVID absence when AB is coming off his COVID suspension because he used a fake vaccine card.
But he said that he claims it was shoddy diligence, that there's more to the story.
I'm sure there is. I'm just trying to say, as someone who had gone through the Achilles injury himself, in your case, try to empathize a little bit with the leadership quandary that Bruce Arians is in. Coming out of his COVID hiatus, Bruce Arians has had COVID, or at least was on the COVID protocol, missed some time. He's an older gentleman, a cancer survivor. He's not in amazing health. He's now walking around on a partially torn Achilles, and he's trying to keep AB aligned when AB's all about AB. And to me, at least one place to look, in addition to corollaries, Randy Moss was the first that came to mind for me, was Mike Tomlin. Trying to understand what it was like for Mike Tomlin to be able to keep him part of a successful franchise in Pittsburgh is what folks have been trying to do ever since. AB may no longer be the same guy, so it might be harder to keep him in. But in addition to looking for lessons from the past, we also want to see how this might apply to leadership challenges. As someone who has suffered from an Achilles injury, what do you think was going through Bruce Arians' mind when AB was just doing his antics?
I'm playing hurt.
Yeah.
You're not playing hurt. I'm
Right.
playing hurt.
Right.
You're out.
Right.
I'm here, walking the sidelines, talking in this headset,
Yeah.
making sure everyone knows what's doing.
Yeah.
I got pain just running up my leg.
Right. Oh, this is good.
I'm playing hurt. You're not playing hurt. That's what's going through his head. So
Yeah.
when he made this slashing, he's like, F you,
Yeah.
because I got a lot of pain in my leg. I didn't know this. This is deep. Is this come in just off the wire?
Yeah. And just for our listeners, that was not Bruce Arians. That was Tarlin Ray's rendition of a fictionalized account of what we're going through Bruce Arians' head. But Mike Tomlin, next level coaching, had to figure out, how do I keep AB pointed towards the light? Ben Roethlisberger had his own background history. AB in the locker room for the Steelers was on Facebook Live while Mike Tomlin was talking about, I think it was about a loss, if I remember correctly. There's a lot of lessons to be learned around how do you manage difficult personalities, but there's a point at which the toxicity is too much to manage. And then the flip side is, this was a rage quit happening in front of our eyes. Lots of analogies to the professional life, to what work is like. I heard a lot of it on talk radio all week. That's another reason why I thought it would be an interesting dimension for us to pick up on. Lessons in leadership, takeaways beyond it's tough to coach with a semi-torn Achilles.
Can we finish on AB real quick?
Please.
Whether or not this is the first time he's done it in a game, but he did not have a pretty exit from the Pittsburgh Steelers. He had a big blowout, and supposedly it was a big blowout with Big Ben. But AB left the Steelers in 2018. He actually didn't play the last game with the Steelers, even though the Steelers were in the playoff hunt. So he didn't show up to practice. They made him inactive. He was on the sidelines and left the last game with the Steelers at halftime.
Mhm.
This is not the first time. It's just more public. Took the shirt off because he felt too sexy. And that was an alpha to alpha. No one saw it, but you can't do that to me. He said he was protecting his image, but this is not the first time he's left.
Yeah.
EB, when he got traded to the Raiders, I don't know if anyone remembers, we all had to see his nasty feet because of the cryotherapy issues that he had.
Right.
And that's when he went with the blonde tints, and everyone was saying, what's going on with AB? Or there's some mental health issues. Even Malcolm Gladwell had a post this week saying everyone should, take some pause. You're taking shots at AB. He's obviously going through some issues. And AB said he's not going through any issues.
Right.
So AB is complicated. And that goes to your question around leadership. Mike Tomlin, one of the longest tenured coaches in the NFL, and it's hard to keep that job. Now, the Steelers are a well-run organization, and they often have their coaches are there for a certain amount of time. But Tomlin has not had a under 500 records for 15 straight years. That's hard to do.
And I hear Tomlin's been considered for maybe the USC job. Is that correct? But separately, there's a press conference.
Separate press conference where he
incredible.
Just right, because he's saying, why are you, and one of the few black coaches in this league, why are you asking me about a college job? This is one of the best jobs in the world. Why aren't you asking another coach about that job?
Well, here's that quick clip of the Mike Tomlin press conference.
For that speculation. I mean, that's a joke to me. I got one of the best jobs in all of professional sport. Why would I have any interest in coaching college football? That'll be the last time that I address it. And not only today, but moving forward. Never say never, but never. Okay? Anybody else got any questions about any college jobs? There's not a booster with a big enough blank check.
Anyone else? All right.
Thank you. Anybody asking Sean Payton about that? Anybody asking Andy Reid about stuff like that?
So Tomlin, you can only imagine there's so many personalities. AB has said he is one of the best football players in the world, one of the best receivers. He's right. Tom Brady is not the coach, but as his own leader in himself, Tom Brady wants AB there because he's a great football player. When AB was at the Patriots, he only played for them for a game, and he had to leave because of sexual harassment claims.
Right.
AB was there through all of the preseason and that one game, and Tom Brady's like, I want to ball with that guy because he's going to catch the ball, and he's really good.
Yeah.
Tom Brady has been supportive of AB because he's a great football player.
Yeah.
Tomlin, as the leader, supposedly tolerated because there are issues with him showing up on time because he's a great football player.
Right.
Ran routes.
Mm-hmm.
He was tough. He took that vicious Vontaze Burfict hit in 2016, still got up and was still playing. But at some point, as a leader, not everyone, you're dealing with personalities. Not everyone's going to show up on time. Not everyone's going to not fall asleep in the film room. Not everyone's going to remember the play.
Not everyone's going to remember not to wish Tarlin a happy new year on January 10th. It takes all kinds.
Exactly. But you balance, it's a scale. And at what point is that single personality going to push down, eliminate the balance that you have so it becomes more of a detriment than gain? So when is it more of a con than a pro?
Mm-hmm.
That's what he's doing as a leader. We deal with it every day at work. There are some people who you're working as a team, and you know that they're going to send you information in the format that you're looking for, and we'll send it in a timely way. You'll never have to ask for it. And there are others where you're checking in. Did you see the thing I sent? And can we talk about what you sent me? And this is not what we were talking about. So
or you text your co-host to say, what are we doing Saturday?
What are we doing again? So it takes a level of leadership to be able to manage those personalities, one. And then two, and I keep quoting, this is straight from AB because I did watch Full Send podcast, and I may finish it just with my last coffee after this show, is he said a lot of what people are talking about is he said, or what happened away from the field. No one can question whether or not I study, whether or not I know the plays, whether or not I have more energy than anyone else, when I catch the ball, whether or not I'm tough. And so Tomlin also, unlike you people in your office in your day-to-day, you're balancing the noise from someone's personal life from what they're doing in the building.
Mm-hmm.
They're balancing whether or not it can start to bleed in. So we talked about Kyrie and whether or not to keep Kyrie away. And that was because of the vaccine status, but Kyrie had a lot of noise around him. And people talk about whether or not Kyrie is dedicated to the team, but everyone on the team in that building knew what he was doing day to day. We talk about A-Rod, and A-Rod,
meaning, just to be clear, Aaron Rodgers.
I did it. And it's because we know in 2011, Alex Rodriguez lost the right to be able to call himself A-Rod. So to call Aaron Rodgers A-Rod feels wrong. So Aaron Rodgers of the COVID toe, Aaron Rodgers, we know that the media thought because of all his retirement talk and they lost in the first week and that dominated, that there was so much noise about whether Aaron Rodgers cares about the team. And now they've gone off and won. They're number one seed in SC right now and they continue to play. And midseason had all the COVID issues and they continue. The team didn't let the outside noise or the coach let the outside noise have any impact on what's going on in the game.
He's now the odds-on favorite for the MVP. And then this also just in, Boomer Esiason has reported that A-Rod, assuming Green Bay makes it to the Super Bowl, may boycott the Super Bowl due to COVID protocols. This is Boomer talking. This gets back to your point.
Give me a break.
Crazy town.
Give me
all
a break.
people are trying to make noise.
So that's why, thank you for that. I had issues covering this topic.
Yeah.
Because all of it is noise. Yes, it helps. It's more views. It's more likes. It's AB being able to drop his rap song. It's AB with Fashion Nova. It's AB was not. He legitimately has a deltoid ligament issue in his ankle. He's been fighting it all year. He is hurt, according to him. He went to go see doctors. He is hurt. So this is an issue of a player playing hurt, a grievance there. But all the other noise around it, where we're guessing at what he said, and you can watch the Full Sin podcast to hear AB's words, or was Arians truthful? And then does AB have receipts from his texts?
Yeah.
And then does Ava Louise, the woman he was with the night before, does she have information? Or does Danny Chalet, the driver, have more information? It's who cares?
Yeah, exactly. Who cares? I think we all do, because why do we watch sports? We watch sports not just for what happens on the field. We also try to extrapolate outside of that. And then I do think there's some interesting angles around how his performance and beyond what happens on the field may start to impact the performance of other players on the team. And, it could start getting in the way of Mike Evans, who was also playing hurt at the time. How does the leadership within that locker room respond to the special handling of the diva? And I would make a distinction here between a diva and an alpha, because you were calling him an alpha. And I think the alpha, if they're just about them, if it's a me, like wide receivers, even the nature of their job, but if the ball's not thrown to them, there's only so much they can do. That person is probably not the alpha dog in the Michael Jordan sense of an alpha, in that leading the team. And the same thing is true around quarterbacks. That's my quarterback. That was not a clip of Tio. That was me. The quarterback is really the leader of the team. It's Tom Brady's team, clearly down there. How much can you allow this diva, who's a critical contributor? The diva is almost like the wingman to the alpha. How many of those diva personalities can you allow? How much can you allow the alpha player, the quarterback, to run the culture, to the point where they might make some weird decisions about who they bring in because what they can do within the confines of the game. I think that can risk your whole culture going toxic. There's been a lot of alleged misconduct in AB's past as well, which is something we don't want to take lightly. How does that impact the culture? But I think there's a lot of things we can draw from this when we're thinking about how do you build a team, and then taking a step back, how do you build the broader culture of the NFL? AB is a warrior. He's been a warrior his whole career. The hit he got from Perfect and the way he's played, he's really sacrificing his body in a way that we all realize when we're watching football, but we don't want to necessarily call it out. The football as a culture, the NFL, Roger Goodell allows AB to come back after all these various transgressions to the point where AB feels like he can do anything he wants to do, except he started to bring into question the warrior ethos of the NFL itself. That during those 60 minutes, we are all battling together, and that construct, that gladiatorial, you don't quit on that. And that's why he was pretty universally condemned by NFL players everywhere. And to me, that made me start thinking about how individuals are being given more freedom and autonomy and control over whether they play, whether they don't play. And in some ways, that's clashing with the old school Bruce Arians kind of sensibility. And I think there's a lot of parallels, or those are similar challenges you face as a leader, trying to build a culture, trying to get a team together. So that's why I thought beyond the sensational clickbaity aspect of the conversation, there's some deeper stuff going on here. And I do think he called attention to some of the paradoxes and some of the challenges in the NFL in a way. It wasn't exactly like what Kaepernick was doing, but he was, through some act of individual protest, he was calling attention to some oddities around with the way the NFL works. And I think that's another angle that's interesting to talk about.
I buy all that. I think that the NFL is entertainment. It's one of the most highest rated TV shows around. The NFL, whether they like it or not, they need to make sure Tampa Bay needs to make sure they cut AB the right way. So there wasn't some lawsuit, but this is all good for the NFL. I think AB, he wanted to have dominion over his own body. He wanted to be able to control when he plays. You can see that AB has been fighting something. So there are some lessons. I struggle when you're pulling lessons from someone who just has had so many instances in the past. And you know how I rail a little bit against the me mindset versus the team. There's no I in team, but there's an M and E. He knows that. And so that's why I struggle to cover him and to see lessons that can be learned. But you have to look at it the other way. He is an outsized talent. And can you, within the structure of your team, bring someone in to help move the organization forward? And you have those with all throughout your life. I think you have to say he did play ball. He fought for the team for a long time, but then something set him off. It's everyone's got a trigger word, and he felt that they were not being true to their word, be disingenuous. They were going to be sullying his name, and that's when he fought back. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't as if he just went rogue one game. There's a reason for being in AB. I just hope that we don't prop up AB to be a hero more than he is, because I feel like that just feeds the cycle that we have today of that me, and everyone looking to, in the same way we have NIL dollars and looking to make sure they get what's coming to them as an individual. It can happen. Same things happen in NFL, it's NBA. And you just hope that you don't lose sight of what's so powerful about sports is people working together to drive forward. One thing I'll call it, like, there's a new award My buddy is part of this organization. It's been around for a few years, the Joe Moore Award, which celebrates offensive linemen in college football. And I think that to me is the epitome of sports that people who are overlooked or just in the trenches. And so maybe I'm just showing my cards. I celebrate those people, the grinders. And when it's the person who is just as flashy as can be, I think there's things to learn, but that's why you can look at all our texts. My text to you, and I'm sharing, this is deep, was yesterday. My text to you was, I'm not really feeling AB. And that's when you went to, I'm not as excited by AB conversation, so layered. And he said, and it's a he said issue. He's complicated, may have been wronged. Definitely, I think, has mental issues. Not sure what lessons we can pull. And that's when you're going, can we go Kyrie?
I was ready to go Kyrie. I was ready to go Kyrie and Aaron Rodgers.
Sorry, Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
And the best one you pulled out, because we could be talking about the replacements in the NBA, are that Joe Johnson at 40 is making buckets, and that Lance Stevenson. That one of the best gifts you sent me was of him blowing into LeBron's ear. Went off in a game. So
17 points in 5 minutes by Lance Stevenson.
So I'm sharing, we have to cover some of the things that like I see that people are talking about, and what can we pull from it?
Yeah.
I struggled to pull back to try to relate it to someone in the past other than other diva athletes. But we can look at it from lessons. Like if you're in an organization, if you're managing teams, if you're in companies, you have similar dynamics.
Yeah.
And how do you either let some things go, or there are times where people need to part ways? So that's the way I'm looking at this. And I'm staying away from the TMZ, Us Weekly people and that type of noise that's coming out.
Yeah, that makes sense. And thank you for not removing your running it back jersey and just walking out in the middle of this conversation because we were talking about AB. Although your incentives, I understand.
I've always been too sexy for this pod.
Exactly. I was thinking about the different angles. The one that I wanted to talk about was Cyril Grayson, the next man up sensibility. This is my other takeaway. In addition to the next man up being a star of past glory coming back in the case of Joe Johnson or Lance Stevenson, the next man up, or next woman up, but the ethos of sports, which we can frequently miss, in addition to Mr. Rogers saying, when things go crazy, look for the helpers. So good job, Mike Evans, try to make things work, but obviously that didn't pan out. But also look for that next man up, the person who gets the opportunity, the people who take all the oxygen from the room, the ABs who have to be the center of attention. When you get them out of your system, it's also a message to you, Tom Brady. Cyril's there, man. Cyril Grayson scored 2 touchdowns in the heroic comeback to beat the New York Jets in that same game. Bill Simmons famously talked about the Ewing effect when Patrick Ewing of the New York Knicks left the New York Knicks, who had their first buzzer beater since 2012. RJ Barrett the other night in MSG, it was Bedlam, bing bong. But aside from the Ewing theory, where the Knicks played better once Ewing left towards the end of his career, this could potentially galvanize the Bucs if they can get the right people to step up. And it was interesting. Maybe it's that they couldn't play call for Cyril because they didn't really know what his game was. But it is crazy. And then you think about all this feeding into January. What's media week going to be like going into the Super Bowl this year, in the year of the COVID toe, the year of Kyrie, the year of AB going off? As T.O. said, get your popcorn ready because things could go crazy, Tarlin. And we got to figure out how to tell the right stories. Is it the story of AB? Is it the story of Cyril Grayson? I'll let you decide.
Can't wait to see how things unfold. Excited for 2022. I promise to you, as my co-host, that I'll give you more than 36 hours to prep. We will continue to dig deeper to look for interesting stories in sports and lessons that can be learned, and hopefully bring you different flavor than the talking heads that you're hearing throughout the sports universe today.
Yeah. Tarlin, excited for the possibility of this new year. There's going to be lots of stuff happening that's bubbling up, and hopefully we can find some surprising perspectives along the way. Thanks as always for your contribution.
Go Mets.
We'll be back again soon. Thanks for listening. This is Running It Back.
Hey, AB, man. You had them 3 little boys, and God just gave you another son, man. You've been out the game for over a year. You put up big numbers, but you know the greatest number is loving them 4 young boys that look up to you more than anybody else.